Good evening, everyone. We begin the readout tonight with breaking news. The newest filing in the $1.6 billion defamation lawsuit from Dominion Voting Systems against Fox has just been released. Now, we are still combing through it, but the more than 1,000-page filing already provides additional evidence that points to Fox's intentional disregard for the truth as it continued to spread Donald Trump's baseless claims that the 2020 election was stolen. And from the very top, we have Fox Corporation Chairman Rupert Murdoch admitting that Fox hosts actually endorsed it, asking, quote, was it wrong for Fox hosts to endorse these lies? Rupert Murdoch replied, quote, if they knew they were lies, yes, if they knew they were lies. And the filing does show that some of those hosts knew they were lies. In one of Tucker Carlson's private texts, an unknown individual asks him, do you think there's real evidence of significant voter fraud? Carlson replies, I don't think there is evidence of voter fraud that swung the election. There's info here and there showing fraud, but not the amount required to swing the election to Biden. Of course, you've never heard Tucker say that on air. You probably also haven't heard his true thoughts about Trump lawyer Sidney Powell, who was leading the charge in the tinfoil hat brigade over the Dominion voting machine conspiracy theories. In texts and emails, he revealed that he knew that she was spouting lies. And in a newly revealed text, he said, quote, Sidney Powell is lying, effing B word. Nice. Also in the filing was an email from Murdoch to Fox News chief executive Suzanne Scott on January 21st, 2021, 2 weeks after the January 6th insurrection, where he acknowledges Fox News' role in what happened. He writes, still getting mud thrown at us. Is it unarguable that is it unarguable that high-profile Fox voices fed the story that the election was stolen and that January 6th was an important chance to have the result overturned? Maybe Sean and Laura went too far. All very well for Sean to tell you he was in despair about Trump, but what did he tell his viewers? Now, keep in mind, there is now ample evidence that the anchors and executives at Fox did not believe the things that they were saying about a stolen and rigged 2020 election. We've seen that from the lawsuit's past filings. In fact, it wouldn't surprise me if some of them are even laughing at their viewers behind their backs, calling them suckers for believing what they hear on the network. There is also the reporting from the New York Times' Peter Baker describing the panic within the company right after the election, when they appropriately and accurately called Arizona for Biden. The fear of angering and potentially losing their audience even had their supposed real journalists like Bret Baier and Martha MacCallum suggesting that it was not enough to call a state based on numerical calculations, but that viewer reaction should be considered. In a Trump environment, Ms. McCollum said, the game is just very, very different. And those efforts to give their viewers what they want to hear, knowing that it's BS, has continued up to literally last night.
The protesters were angry. They believed that the election they had just voted in had been unfairly conducted, and they were right. In retrospect, it is clear the 2020 election was a grave betrayal of American democracy. Given the facts that have since emerged about that election, no honest person can deny it.
Joining me now is Aaron Blake, senior political reporter for The Washington Post, Katie Phang, MSNBC legal contributor and host of The Katie Phang Show on MSNBC, and Democratic strategist Kurt Bardella. Aaron, I have been scrolling as quickly as I can through your Twitter feed. It's faster than reading through this giant monster filing. Give us the highlights. I guess they could also be called lowlights. What do we learn from this filing that is new?
Well, a lot of it is filling out details that Dominion has already focused in their briefs. Now, Dominion had an incentive to highlight the most important things that would help its legal case, and these are the exhibits that are filling out the picture. So we're seeing the full Rupert Murdoch deposition. We're seeing some of these internal text messages that are similar to what we saw before, but maybe provide a little bit more color, kind of filling out the case. I think what's clear from these texts and these emails and these depositions is that there was a lot of panic at Fox News after the election. They were not only worried about losing viewers to Newsmax and other conservative outlets that were promoting these things more than they were at the time, but there was a lot of backbiting. There were people complaining about the news side, about the comms team, effectively undermining them and spreading stories that didn't reflect well on the primetime hosts. And so that's, you know, we're dealing with a lot of materials here, but those are the first things that really stuck out to me.
Yeah, I mean, you're very kind in saying people. I mean, be careful if you have a group text that you don't commit any crimes or get sued for libel, because there's apparently a group chat between Laura Ingraham, Sean Hannity, and Tucker, and they chop it up about a lot of things. And one of the things they were doing, as you were saying, Aaron, is complaining that the news people and the polling people, who they apparently despise and think despise them, were undermining the story they were telling that they themselves knew was false. Let me read a couple of these other things, because there's also the Sidney Powell of it, Aaron. This is Sidney Powell communicating with Tucker Carlson. On November 17, 2020, this is after the election. Sorry, just saw this. Believe I emailed you the affidavit earlier today. More evidence pouring in. Tucker then says to her, "You keep telling our viewers that millions of votes were changed by software. I hope you will prove that very soon. You've convinced them that Trump will win. If you don't have conclusive evidence of fraud at that scale, it's cruel and reckless thing to keep saying." Except that they kept saying it. He kept saying it. And Katie, let me bring you in here, because the question I have is, he's essentially warning Sidney Powell, you better bring some receipts because I'm putting you on my show and you're getting people's hopes up. Then he turns around, despite her never bringing said receipts, and he keeps saying the thing. Where does that leave Fox in terms of defamation?
It leads you directly down the path towards the state of mind of the speaker, of the defamation. The idea that the person, when they're relaying the information, that they knew that it was false, because you have to prove actual malice when you're Dominion voting and you're suing Fox News. It's just as important in terms of smoking gun evidence when you have these types of text messages, these chats, all of these emails evidencing that they knew or they recklessly disregarded the falsity of what was being put out and basically peddled to Fox News viewers. So when you're suing somebody for actual malice, somebody could say, hey, in good faith, I was reporting. It was newsworthy. You know, it was important to talk about a challenge to a 2020 presidential election. But what does Fox News in here is the fact that they maybe at some small measure of time thought, maybe this is not totally credible. But in the absence of the evidence that they kept on asking for, they still kept on pushing out the falsehoods. And that is the problem for Fox News when it comes to this particular litigation. And I just want to emphasize something, Joy. It may not necessarily get to a jury in April. A judge could readily find in just a couple of weeks, on March 21st, that Dominion has proved its burden as a matter of law, and the only thing left to determine is damages.
Wow, that's interesting. I mean, look, let me bring you in, Kurt. This is another text. This is between Sean Hannity and Laura Ingraham on November 16th. This is the day, on November 16th, the day before the previous text that I read you. Hannity, a new branding campaign won't cut it. Frankly, without Fox prime time, what does the country have? Ingraham, this is all veneer stuff to change the channel. It won't be sustainable for 4 years this way. Hannity, buckle up. People are headed away until after the new year. My first new rodeo, not my first rodeo. Numbers will crash. We should all think about how together we can force a change. The audience that exists comes for us. And that's in the group chat that also includes Tucker Carlson, in which they're making it very clear that they know, Kurt, that what they're saying on each of their primetime shows is BS. But what they're actually angry about is that the news people and the polling people are refuting what they're saying. So they're making it very clear that their agenda and their goal is to keep the money flowing in and the stock price up and to keep Newsmax and other competitors from being competitive, but never in these group texts. When they're just talking to themselves and don't know what will come out, do they ever say, we think the election was stolen?
Yeah, isn't it inconvenient, Joy, when the facts get in the way of propaganda, which is exactly what they are confronting on that chat. I mean, let's be very clear here. These people knowingly chose ratings over our republic. They've made a conscious decision time and again, even to the present moment in time, to continue airing baseless conspiracy theories. They are as much responsible for what happened on January 6th as Donald Trump, in my opinion. When you read all of these, texts that are coming to light and the depositions that have just been published, any sane-minded person comes to the conclusion that Fox and Rupert Murdoch represent a clear and present danger to American democracy. That in spite of knowing all the facts, knowing the truth, knowing there wasn't a shred of evidence from any corner of any of the crazy people they were putting on television, exposing them to millions of people, they knew the entire time that it was all BS, and yet they continue to traffic in that to this very day, at this very moment, on this very evening. They will be doing that. And I think it's all time that everybody involved in politics, in media, and our country start thinking about how we talk about Fox, because I'm not going to say Fox News anymore, because they're not a news organization. No news organization in America functions this way. No news organization in America knowingly goes out there to lie and mislead their audience and, in fact, to try to harm the institution of American democracy. Fox is nothing more than a Republican super PAC, and it's time that we all treated and talked about them that way.
We've made the same decision here on the show. We just call them Fox. I think that's more accurate. We're trying to be accurate here.